And boom, we are live. Welcome to Tokyo Tonight 2. It's good to be here. My name is Hikosaemon. It's good to have you along here as always. Very good to see Robert Old Dude, Dave Hunter, and Mr. Cordy Chap already here. How's it going, everyone? Hope everyone is well. I'm sorry, I've been watching, what was I watching? I was watching Amazon Video just now. American Gods, which I'm quite enjoying, and it was distracting. It's Sunday, this is like the only free time I get, but I'm spending it with you guys because I love doing this every week. I'm going to go through all the news and topics of interest and anything that you want to know about what's going on in Japan and the world. It's good to have you along. How's it going with you guys? It's been a beautiful day. It's a great time of year here at the moment. It's not too hot yet. It's not yet rainy season, although it's about to start in Tokyo. We've had some rainstorms, but overall it's been pretty good. Kim, welcome once again. You got an advert to start. Yes, everybody subscribe to Dave Hunter. No problem. Miss Hanake, great to see you. Tai Nakamura, also indeed. Look, everyone's rolling in. Charles Singer, you caught the boom. We are live. Well, there we go. And actually, you should be extremely proud because, like I say, because I was binge watching like Amazon Video. I only set this up like actually as it became 11 o'clock. So you made it in like right on there without any warning. So I'm impressed. Actually, Stu Cook, good to have you along. Barringer, good morning to you. Mr. Cordy Chap, shampoo advert. Well, I honestly don't really differentiate much with shampoo anymore, but why not? I feel like it's kind of a waste of time. Good to see you, Dark Meister 41. Good to have you along. And Ko Hoshino, konbanwa. This is Sinister Man KO indeed. That's right. It's Facebook conversation tonight talking about. I got a question again from somebody asking, is there really a ban on Muslims in Japan? Which there most definitely, of course, is not. And I was giving examples, and one of those examples is that the Japanese government is specifically going to Indonesia saying, hey, Indonesia, the most populous majority Muslim country in the world is Indonesia. The most Muslims are in India, but they're not the majority there, but they are in Indonesia. Japan has specifically gone to Indonesia and said, hey, come take care of all of our old people. They're giving them language lessons, they're training them, they're building mosques, they're building a whole infrastructure to allow thousands and thousands and thousands of Muslims to migrate to Japan. And if you know the history of Japan and Indonesia, and even to some extent Malaysia and some other places like that, you'll understand Japan. And with Iran, Japan has a great relationship with Iran. I've said all this before, but yes, so I was talking about that, and I said that Japan is targeting Indonesians, and that sounded a bit not quite so heartwarming indeed. Kohoshina made a great point, so I said I just was trying to refute the idea that Japan is somehow acting like white supremacists elsewhere sometimes think Japan acts, which is a bit strange. Hello Amber, good to have you along. Wow, everybody's rolling in. It's great to see you. Why the sound was so low is because your Windows volume was right. It turns out that your YouTube volume was. Thank you for sharing that with me because I was about to like blast everybody. Well, I must say, actually, I'm looking at my monitor and I'm very much in the bottom. This is quiet. This show, I guess I could boost it up, but you'll get clearer sound. But yes, it won't quite be. I realize that you probably have to turn it up when I am on. Clank Gun 72, and I'm sure that comment's not addressed towards me, and it's also a username that I don't recognize, so welcome indeed, Clank Gun 72. And yes, so here we go. What have we got here? That is an advertisement for the show. You should watch it. In fact, I believe you already are. Good to have you along. I was exchanging some tweets earlier with a Tide historian who is following me on Twitter, so I followed back. I was being deliberately provocative a little bit this week towards American people, and I'm sorry, but I will say this maybe at the start of it. You can vote for Japan's bus mascot. No, that's not what I was going to say. I was getting a little bit frustrated where seeing Americans blaming Trump for what's happened this week, like it's got nothing to do with them. I'm sorry, if you have to understand, for us non-Americans, America's accountable for the people that it legitimately elects, and I find it frustrating. I'm frustrated with Trump, but I don't think there's anything I can do about that because America chose him, and I know all my Democrat friends say, oh no, we didn't choose him, he didn't get the majority of votes in the election. Well, you don't elect him that way, and you have entirely the control over that. And, again, the people who lost the election are totally not at all showing any sign of saying, oh, we really fucked that election up, which they should be saying, because they did. And they're not, and it makes me afraid that they're going to do it again, and we're going to get more of this. How come it's like being angry at a rabid dog for being a rabid dog? I mean, seriously, nothing that Trump is doing at the moment to me is absolutely anything inconsistent with anything he's been saying since he was talking about grabbing pussy back in the primaries. He's being exactly what the world predicted he was going to become. How can we be angry at him? I'm angry at the people that made him president. So that's the whole thing with the Paris thing, which, sure, I've seen all this stuff about, well, it won't make that much of a difference anyway, but, this has been a kind of an American Republican tradition. I mean, again, it was under W. Bush, and I've got nothing, some of my best friends are Republicans. I really don't care about the parties over there. But it was the Republicans that said they weren't going to play ball on Kyoto, that killed the whole any attempts on climate change for a long time. And now things have been getting good again. I mean, Tesla, all these companies that are doing all this good stuff with renewable energy and all these sort of innovative technologies to make things better. And all the support for that, at least in America, is going to go away. And they're going to hand the ball over to China and Japan and other countries to dominate that economy. It's a lost opportunity for America, and it's bad for the world, but it is what it is. It's what America chose, and it did choose it, even if Hillary got more votes. It's a shame, and I vented about that. I said that I blame America more than I blame Trump. I don't really blame Trump because, it's like putting a Chihuahua as president. I mean, literally, how can you be angry at the Chihuahua that you made president? You should be angry at the people that made the Chihuahua president. Seriously, I have uncles like Trump. I don't, they're a known quantity. What I don't understand is how you put that person, how you let the Chihuahua drive the bus. I don't understand that. Vent over, but yes, I just wanted to clarify because I know I annoyed some people. And I deliberately said it. I deliberately was going out trying to annoy people because I don't understand how people say. But anyway, I see people are more concerned about the mascot. So let's check them out, actually. Voting is underway for the top mascot. I see 4 here. Pretty alarming one of a bird there. I'm sure that can't be right. Let's see. Let's take a vote here on the show. Which mascot is the right one? Tai Nakamura, you're trying to trigger me, but I don't care. I don't care about him. Kofefe. Oh, that was quite funny. Charles Singer, there's not much you can do about him. No, indeed. Well, that's right. I mean, he's the president for the next 4 years. Good evening, Auntie Liana. Good to have you along, by the way. License to 45. Good to have you there. Yeah, Dave O'Hunter, it's a good comment there about the mascot. So let's try to zoom in. I wonder if we get a proper selection here. Okay, so let's go. The first one is Santa-kun, which is the Kyushu Sanko bus. In fact, can we get a better zoom in? I don't know what to think of this. I'm ambivalent about the color about Sanko-kun. Any votes for Sanko-kun here? Alex Shiroki, good to have you along. Let's check out Basgori. Okay, Basgori. This is probably going to do something weird when I play this, but let's do it anyway. I'm gonna say I'm not feeling it with Sanko-kun or with Basgori. Whoa, so far. Not feeling it. Let's keep going. So Santa-kun or Basgori. Option number 3, Buske Basmi. Well, this is Buske and Busmi. I assume they pronounce that bus and not bus because bus means ugly in Japanese. I'm going with number 3 so far. I think these are some solid. I mean, we're having a little election here, I guess. I noticed the comments, and I'm going to attempt to unsee them. I'm unseeing the comments right now. Okay. So I'm liking Buske and Busmin, a boy and girl bus. It's been 1960s, but in a cute way. Hankyu as well. That's Osaka, I think. Nikki-kun, where's Nikki-kun? A bus with the hat in the upper right corner. Can I zoom in on this picture? I can't, but you can see in the upper right corner there's a bus with a cute little bellboy hat there, Nikki-kun from West JR. I still think not trying hard enough. For me it's 3. I don't know how people are going with you guys, but yeah. Let's go on to option number 5, Norochi-kun and Noroka-chan. Well, at least they're being, both genders. Although, tell you the truth, it looks a bit like a Canadian South Park character to me. Let's have a look here. We can zoom in a little bit. Here we go. I'm still going with number 3 on this one. I don't even recognize that as being. They look like kind of bowls, maybe like a colander or some sort of a I don't know, some sort of a bowl of some sort. Anyway, I'm not feeling it for these ones. Let's keep looking. 6. Whoa. Kanyan, Kanto bus. See, Kanto. This is why the show is called Tokyo Tonight, because Kanto knows what it's talking about. You see all that West Japan shit that we had. 3 was generic, old school, unquestionably a bus mascot, and I respect that. But I think just as a mascot goes, Kanyan's showing some styles there, but not bus specific. So I don't know, it's a good mascot. It's a good mascot that I guess, if they wanted to ever stop supporting buses, they could support airplanes or, sewage systems or anything, and it would be pliable like that. It could be a TV star. I also respect the fact that it has a proper costume, which I don't see happening with number 3, but there again, it's not really identifiable as being with the other ones. Charles Singer, stop saying that. I don't accept that. Really? Was Bus Gory from Tokyo? No, I'm for Tokyo Bus. Okay, well, Tokyo's a big place and it's not perfect. I think can go. Nikoppa-chan from Shinki Bus. Where is Shinki Bus? It looks like a. Is that a pigeon? I'm not sure that a pigeon should be an icon for anything. But yes, it looks like that cat from the volcano disaster. Not so long. I don't know what you're talking about, Mr. Koichi, but I'm not feeling it. I gotta say with Nikoppa-chan. Yeah, that looks like a disgusting flying rat with wings, if you ask me. So I am gonna skip that, and I don't even know where Shinki is talking about. Quality Z, Sakura Kanko. Well, that's interesting. Well, it's nice. I like the cartoonishness of it, but again, I'm still going up between 3 and 6. I don't know. People still going with 3. Scary. I guess it is kind of scary. I get it, good for comic books. Let's go for 9. Odaku. Odaku's got some pretty strong stuff. Kyunta. Oh, Sasuga Odaku. They're bringing the mascot game here. They've got this little fox there, and gotta say, a bit of a miffy thing going about it. You may be lawsuits over this, but I'm liking it. I'm liking the style. There again, not the full bodysuit like 6. And not the bus specific thing. I mean, he's got like the Flavor Flav bus thing, and he's obviously standing on a bus. That's a good thing for a bus mascot. 72, you like birds. I don't have any problem with birds, but I do have a specific issue with pigeons. Yeah, I think probably more 6 than 9. Good try though. Nishi Tokyo. Okay, Nishikun. Well, for a start, there's a problem there with the name. Just not trying hard enough. Nishi Tokyo, that's Hachioji. I used to live out that way. And, like, seriously, I'm not quite sure what's happening there. Is that a bird? Can't even really tell what it is. And the fact that he's half hiding on the bus. Is there... here we go. There we go. Nishiko, just not hard enough. Not hard enough. Yeah, the Flavor Flav bus thing, it was not bad, but... Kanachu, this doesn't, is that like a koala? It's like a Pikachu koala mix. To me that looks more like a police mascot. I don't know. What to do with this? This doesn't feel like a bus mascot, I must say. I don't know what to do about Kanami. I'm still rocking with 6. Saber really making a play there with a genuine generic mascot looking mascot. Again, you never really recognize what this is from. So I'm still not feeling it. It's good try, respect the costume. Apparently they're voting for Santa-kun. Well, I'm not gonna vote for Santa-kun, I'm afraid. There's Nishi, I get that one, but yeah, Basugori. I don't know. I'm gonna stick with 6. I don't know how you guys are gonna go, but I think this is the important. See, this is how democracy should work. Seriously, I mean, at the moment, I would take any one of these candidates for any public office. Actually, I would not even the bus mascot. I would consider. I mean, given what we know about the other candidates in the British election and the US and Japan, I would take any one of these mascots. In fact, I prefer that they not say anything. That's how it's going for me. Angie, Clan Kung likes Angie. Well, there we go. So, let's see what else we've got going on in Japan and the world. This is kind of freaky. Artificial intelligence can look at your organs and predict accurately when you're going to die. That's pretty horrible. Hopefully not by car crash, I guess. My very good man, Chillin Kansai, made a video. He made a diving fin review video. If you're into diving fins, you should watch this video. And it's got nothing to do with the fact he's got excellent taste in music, playing my music in the background. It's an excellent video. You learn about the effects of diving in Okinawa on second-hand fins. I did learn a lot. I don't know a lot about fins, so even that they have like various colors was informative. He actually got all of this stuff in there, so I was pretty impressed actually, and the music was awesome. Just saying. Sean bro, good to have you along. How do I get Flipboard to update? This just is my Twitter feed made in Flipboard format, so at the moment, so it just updates. If you want to update your feed, if you want to refresh it, you just have to tap on the very top of it, or go up to the very top and pull it down to refresh. Ouch, I'm sorry to hear about that, Dark Meister, that your sister threw a book at your eye still squinting. Okay, well, I'm sorry about that. Well, hope the eye gets better soon. Tell your sister not to throw the books. I mean, yes. What's that Killing Nato news? Was there Killing Nato news? I didn't know about Killing Nato news, but we might come back to that, wherever that is. Yeah, it's not so interesting. Bootleg HoloLens I kind of like, but it just looks like a Google Cardboard. Updated mapping vehicle. I like this one. Putin denies that he had a secret deal with the Trump team. Well, of course he didn't have a secret deal. He's telling everybody about it. I mean, I love it. I really think he actually deliberately did a deal with them just so that he could have fun picking them apart and destroying them later, along with everything else. I mean, seriously. I mean, he is the KGB. He's like an evil, winning version of James Bond. It's actually, you have to respect it. I mean, if he set out to do everything that was happening on purpose, you got to clap. Seriously. I mean, they have an economy smaller than South Korea, and they're fucking up, America, if they're really doing it all, which I wonder about. This is kind of funny. This is a fake book cover that says, "Why do Japanese look at foreigners? Why do Japanese stare at foreigners?" Book cover. It's pretty good. That's not a bad idea. It doesn't really bother me so much anymore. And frankly, in Tokyo, no one actually does look at you in Tokyo. That's why Tokyo's cool. Everyone's like, hey, it's a gaijin. We be cool as kind of like that. But if you're in any other part of Japan, they will stare at you, and that book is probably a good idea in that case. What else we got in here? Apparently, Renho, the leader of the opposition, said, "I cannot stand to even breathe the same air as Prime Minister Abe." To which the right-wing newspaper, the Sankei, said, "Well, why don't you stop breathing?" Apparently, they actually used the expression, the suggestion that perhaps you hold her breath. They use an expression that people say to kids when they do holding their breath tantrums. It was met by the fairly right-wingish internet threads, political threads on each channel with a lot of humor. Well, it could just be that she's not being properly covered by the media, but I'm not really seeing anything that's living up to my very low expectations that I had of her in the beginning. I mean, surely, again, opposition in Japan's a tough job, but can't they do anything? I don't know. Did you know that in Japan, traffic lights, even though they look like the same colors, they call green blue? And I find that very interesting. It does make me wonder. There are a lot of colorblind people who cannot distinguish. I mean, red-green is the most famous type of colorblindness, but there is blue-green colorblindness. And truth is, blue and green are closer in the spectrum. And you talk about the bluegrass state, right, Kentucky. It's just it's always been considered. In fact, apparently, there was an Economist article on this recently where. Apparently, even in the English language and in European languages, they would use the color blue to describe grass. Even in Europe, it's not a cultural thing. Even it's a fairly recent thing that we actually distinguish colors so finely now. So it's always been the same with Japan. If you talk about a real Like when people come to New Zealand and they say that it's a really green country, they'll say like natural green is they say which is blue, but it's kind of bluey greeny, I guess, by the way that they say it. So it's an interesting thing, and yes, Japanese, that's right. It's an interesting article there by Nippon.com on how colours are expressed in Japanese, but there is an interesting one there that if you say the midori na shingo, shingo midori natta, Japanese have no idea what you're talking about. It's shingo, it's green is go. It is an interesting one. Bluegrass, well, bluegrass music, but the bluegrass state, I believe that's what they used to call it. So it's an interesting thing, this whole thing about colours and the history of colours and language. It's a really interesting subject. Yes, EU social networks are apparently getting better at reviewing hate speech, so just do it some more, please. Kid coding, apparently we're going to find out about new Apple devices, maybe the Apple version of this baby on Apple's going to release like a Siri, which I still can't. Every time I see Apple Siri, I think of ass, because I live in Japan. Shiri means, of course, bum. So the new bum speaker from Apple is possibly going to get announced tomorrow. They're probably not going to announce a new iPhone until September, but they are going to probably announce other devices. And it's going to be kind of cool, so I'm going to pay attention to that. It'll be Monday American time, so I guess it'll be Tuesday here, but there we go. The moon's South Pole could be full of ice, which is great because it means you can make rocket fuel and oxygen and water, and you can live there. So that is what Elon Musk and I think Jeff Bezos as well are talking about when they build moon bases. They're going to be at the equators where they have lots of that good stuff. This is interesting. I have noticed some chatter on the internet that apparently I'm only glancing at the English election. Which also reminds me, people in London obviously stay safe. It's terrible that they are having these attacks over and over now. It looks like it affected a lot of people, and it was another one of these bridge attacks again. I mean, it's horrible, and the people who do it, they're not religious. They're just scumbags. I mean, I know that they think that they're religious, and it's attracting some people to it. But remember, again, they're a very, very small minority of the religion, and oh man, I mean, again, why does this sort of shit have to happen? Obviously, if people are in London, stay safe, take good care. I hope everyone is okay with that. And on an aside to that, the election happening over there, a lot of my friends are observing the Tories, and I must say, I'm looking at them myself and thinking they really do look like they are deliberately trying to throw the election. It's like, and I've read the conspiracy theories that the Tories just don't want to be holding the baby when Brexit's implemented. They'll want to try to distance themselves from blame for the referendum. So they're deliberately trying to, this whole stuff that they're doing about the back and forth on the taxes and so on, they're going to increase taxes for everybody and spend less money and all this sort of stuff. I mean, they are campaigning like a party, and they're smiling all the way through. They're trying to throw the election. That's how it looks to me. Mr. Cordy Chip, Siri, that's right, but the sound C doesn't exist in the Japanese language. SI can only be pronounced. Test out a Japanese person how they would say Siri, and they'll say shiri. And so yes, and if you say don't be silly, they'll say don't be shitty. It's a funny thing. Japanese just can't pronounce SI. There's just no sound for that in Japanese language. Even to write it is really awkward. You'd have to do like a big su and a small e to do it. It's really tough. So that's why when I see city, I think shitty. A bit like when I see Citibank, I think shitty bank, and then I think, yeah, it is. So what else do we have here? Yeah, apparently we can now differentiate. Computers can differentiate faces. Another article came up, the reasons behind the recurring butter shortages in Japan. I mean, it's basically, as I've said before, butter shortages in Japan are mainly due to the fact that Japanese agriculture is run on a Soviet agricultural system, the same as North Korea, with similar results, and that's why we have shortages and quotas and queuing of potatoes and butter. I mean, it's exactly like North Korea, actually. Generally speaking, just the farmers are just not productive. They're not competent, and they've always been good enough, but now the average age is over 80, and Japan does not want to allow imports. They want to protect them from becoming more competitive. So basically, in this kind of coddled atmosphere that Japanese dairy farmers are in, they sit at their desks late at night, appearing to be doing overtime, but not really getting anything meaningful done. They're just I was tying the lack of productivity of the cows to the overall Japan's poor rankings in global productivity rankings, and this is something which also kind of burns Japan a little bit if you want to do this. I remember a Japanese government minister commenting on the statistics saying this must be wrong, how Japan has among the lowest productivity in the OECD, which is to say that they spend the most time for the least output. There are reasons behind it, by the way. There are definitely things where so working in a different way and not valuing maximum output for minimum effort. I mean, there are benefits to the Japanese way being a little bit different, but it's at the same time, I do fight back against the stereotype that people are not doing nothing when they're working late at night. But the cows sure as hell are not producing enough milk, and as a result, we do not have enough butter. I see that King Piggles has arrived, and he is asking everybody to hail him. So if you feel so inclined, do so. But I think it's not really. If you have to ask, it's not really. It doesn't feel quite so genuine. But there we go. They know Emmanuel, yes and no. I mean, there are terrorists from every religion and so on, including a hell of a lot of Christian ones, actually. And just this week, I mean, in America, there was that guy who went and stabbed a bunch of people for defending some Muslim people against a white supremacist. So there's terrorists everywhere. But yes, at the moment, the one certainly, if you talk about TV time, I'd say you're absolutely accurate with that. Oh yes, not every day that you see China taking the moral high ground over America. This is classic, this clip. If you ever look this up, Shimbash, just look for Shimbash. You don't have to understand Japanese very well. If you've been in Japan for how long? About 10 years, you'll know about this clip. It's an old, one of those little flash videos. It's very good. You don't need to understand Japanese to be able to understand it. It's basically a class it's a class of cats learning how to speak Japanese. It's entirely in Japanese. They're being taught. They're obviously foreign cats, and they're being taught how to speak Japanese, and it's very good. You should watch it. Japanese meals, they're good for you. Yeah. It was suffering from a lack of butter. It's not so bad at the moment, but I've heard it's going to get bad again. There is a map of all the convenience stores in Tokyo. They are awesome. By the way, I've been getting my stuff because I've been reading about how all the Yamato guys are feeling like bad about having to do all these redeliveries, which happens if a parcel gets delivered when you're not home and the delivery boxes at my apartment building are full up. They take them away and they come back 3 or 4 times and they work themselves to death over this. So lately I've been using, there's a feature which you can use for some products on Amazon where you have them delivered to the local convenience store. So, there's like 10 convenience stores like near my house. And nearly, most of them you can use for these deliveries. So I'm getting them picked up, and they can get delivered like round the clock and always picked up. So I can come and pick them up anytime. So it's awesome. I don't have to wake up my son at home. I don't have to make anyone do a redelivery. So I've been doing that. So this whole thing about the convenience store network is pretty awesome about Japan. And supermarkets are not competing in terms of big mega supermarkets. They're doing pretty badly against it, so they're trying to compete by building smaller supermarkets, which makes some sense. But frankly, the line there is getting blurred, and I really am a big fan of convenience stores. This is the best, but I'm showing this one because this is the best news to come out of America this week. Apparently, when this family in Colorado were away, they thought there was a burglar had come into their house and had trashed their house. Apparently it was no longer there when they got home. They called up the police, and the police asked if they had any security cameras, which they did. So they turned on the security camera, and they found that this massive bear, is it like a black bear? I don't know. It's a big bear. Is it a grizzly? It came into the house, and it not only tore up the house, it played the piano. And I must say, we're flooded constantly by American news here, and most of it lately has been pretty depressing. But, reading the headline that a bear broke into a home and played the piano, to me, I think that made everything okay again. That's just me. So I just want to share this with everybody. And it's is that Vail, Colorado? Take a bow at Vail, Colorado, because you have bears that break into houses and play the piano. That was some good news. That's the only reason I made it to today, actually, reading that story. Japanese government, again, there's this is kind of a scandal. A lot of these scandals, people want there to be scandals they're not really, frankly, such a big deal. And this one, a lot of people are trying to make this into a big deal, and I don't really feel like it is, but let them have a good crack at it. So basically, this is the same scandal I was talking about last week, where basically a lot of Ministry of Education officials have been apparently resenting some direct influence. Some the Prime Minister and other politicians have been leaning on them to approve schools being funded by their donors and supporters and whatnot, as I guess happens everywhere around the world, that, you know, political influence or whatever. But yes, apparently, you know, this happening with the Japanese bureaucracy, and the bureaucrats resenting being told what to do by elected politicians, which again, in most countries is kind of normal, but in Japan the bureaucrats are supposed to be basically independent of and superior to temporary politicians. They're always supposed to be acting in the national interest and not being polluted by elected officials. They've been actually keeping keeping records of political pressure being put on them, and a few people have been whistleblowing about it. And although the Minister of Education has been denying that anything's been happening about this, more and more people have been coming out saying, yeah, this is legit, and those that are have been viciously attacked by the right-wing media and the pro-government media. But it's an interesting thing for just watching the fight happen, even though frankly I think it's about nothing. It's kind of interesting. Yes, I see that the comments are now moving along. Mr. Cordy Chap, yeah, that's right. Fonterra kind of, well, I mean, this is the thing, if you go for China, with tourism in Japan as well, it's sort of all boom bust. You can't blame them for aiming at them, but yes. So Andy Rubin, who invented Android before Android was taken over by Google, he has been inventing like a new smartphone, and he's got a whole lot of very cool and interesting products coming out. He's calling essentials, and this one including AR glasses, and it sounds like everyone, including Apple, playing with the idea of releasing glasses that look like this, that will superimpose screens and virtual reality over current reality, i.e. it'll be augmented reality, AR. And smart glasses, he's toying with the idea. I like the idea of this. I want to see this happen. I want Google Glass to sort of come back and get more support. So we'll see what will happen with that. But yes, there are currently 2 American supercarriers off the Korean Peninsula. This was another interesting one this week, wasn't it? The back and forth trolling in a way. So, North Korea's been going crazy testing missile ICBM components that it looks like can now probably deliver missile, warhead-like payloads to the American mainland now. So America responded by launching an ICBM interceptor missile. And Noribento. Well, that is true. But anyway, so America responded by basically demonstrating its shooting down ICBM technology. And it's interesting because America doesn't publicly do anti-ICBM tests very often. And there's a lot of reasons for this. Basically, the whole Strategic Defense Initiative, Star Wars, shooting down ICBMs with laser beams, after it brought down the Soviet Union, it was basically deeply criticized for basically seeing as putting America in a position that it could withstand an attack, a nuclear attack from another country, and safely attack them with nuclear missiles, i.e. America could attack a country and prevent retaliation, even of a country with nuclear weapons. And if that was the case, they promised that they were going to just increase production of nuclear weapons and just overwhelm these defense systems with mass production of nuclear weapons, which America said, hey, let's not mass produce nuclear weapons, we'll agree not to test anti-missile systems if you agree to cut back your stockpiles. And that's sort of how all these anti-nuclear, going back to the 90s now, it's how all of these anti-nuclear weapons treaties got decided. So, it's kind of, for America to be testing an ICBM shooting down missile, it carries some pretty strong implications, not so much for North Korea, although it's good, I guess, when North Korea is practicing firing ICBMs at America and saying we're going to fire ICBMs at America. They've kind of put America in the position of needing to demonstrate that they can actually do this, but at the same time, you have to wonder, basically what this is also doing at the same time, this is putting China, it's demonstrating that America is now putting more efforts again into the idea of shooting down ICBMs, and that basically is completely undermining the basis of geopolitical power of China and Russia. So in a way, it's kind of like, oh, we didn't have any choice, we had to do this. It's really the reason that China and Russia joined the resolutions condemning North Korea this week is because America tested this weapon. I'm pretty sure it had a lot to do with it. America is basically putting them in a corner by putting these two super carriers off the Korean peninsula. They're shutting off the entire North Pacific to Russia and China. And by testing these things, they're basically threatening to undermine their entire, and putting the THAAD anti-missile shield over Korea. They're pretty much undermining their entire nuclear arsenal and the power that gives them. So North Korea, in a way, could be seen as doing America a massive strategic favor at the moment. It's giving America an excuse to frankly flex its muscles and really put Russia and China at a strategic disadvantageous position, which is interesting. I mean, I think obviously the game being played is to see if they will actually force China or Russia to maybe take some direct action against North Korea over this, maybe try to even change the regime there. But the question is, they're kind of showing. I think this is a smart game, and I'm not giving Trump credit for this. I'm sure the U.S. military's thought about this for a long time. But rather than taking the passive approach like Japan has been doing of just ignoring North Korea, not engaging with them, they're now basically escalating the situation, but in ways that are probably more alarming to China and Russia than they are actually to North Korea. And that is really interesting. And I think it could be, I mean, again, it's not that I want war, but at the same time, it's an interesting way to escalate the issue and to get other stakeholders to take more responsibility. It's dangerous, but an interesting way to handle the situation, and I actually think I'll give credit. I think it's quite smart. So we will see what happens. But so long as this continues, and of course, I'm kind of with you. But again, I mean, you never know on the North Korean side. But I think actually, in spite of everything being said about America at the moment, I think this is strategically actually a very smart move. Everything that's been happening. So Korean clay pigeon shooting for the US, pretty much. And the thing is, that was a North Korean clay pigeon. Don't worry, Russia and China totally would never do that to your nuclear missiles being aimed at us. We're just thinking of North Korean ones. Don't get alarmed at all. Oh, here's another one. Boom. That's pretty much what they're doing. It's actually pretty smart. Japan's population is declining faster than ever now, and it's already been declining faster than most countries in the world. Already the underemployment issues, everything happening with the people who are 23 years old, 20 years old now, are already reaching crisis proportions. There aren't enough people to fill the jobs needed to keep the economy going, and yet at the same time, it's not going to get better. The birth rate has been continuing to decline, and it's the lowest it's ever been right now, which means that the problems that we're starting to have now in a bad way are going to get much, much worse. So it's kind of an alarming continuing trend, and I guess this is where the robots and AI might really, really be good for Japan at least. Although they're going to cause problems probably here too. They're going to cause a lot of disruption, but there we go. This is what I was talking about earlier. Again, this is the thing about the veterinary department. There's going to be a veterinary university, and apparently someone said that the Prime Minister really wants this crappy university that no one wants to get built, and everyone felt resentful about it. Now it's turned into a big scandal, but there we go. The Democratic Party is enjoying getting a scandal for once. So what do we have here? This is where I was venting a little bit about the Paris stuff. I don't care. I think it's just a wasted opportunity, and it's just total irresponsibility for future generations, which I do care about. But is what it is. It's just going to be other countries doing it instead of America, including China. Again, how you could hand China the moral high ground on this. Japan's been criticizing a UN report that says that Japanese media is under pressure and censorship from the government. They've said that the guy is a doofus, he doesn't know what he's talking about. They refused to engage with him while he was here in Japan, probably to make his report deniable later on, and they're doing that, and he's apparently a university professor in California, and he's saying, no, I think it's good. We'll see. There's been a lot of criticism. The Jake Adelsteins and so on have been putting stuff on the Daily Beast saying the combination of the anti-terrorism law that Japan's just enacted, the anti-conspiracy law, and the general feelings that the Japanese government has been exercising without putting journalists in jail. They've been putting a lot of pressure on journalists. Well, it's always kind of been the case, and it happens everywhere. But yes, there's been a feeling it's been happening more under the current government. Crow Sirai Nuts, good to see you there. Welcome. That's the first time I've noticed your handle name before, so welcome. And off the cuff question: can non-Japanese people drive Japan's trains? Do the reducing population? Oh, I'm sorry. I got distracted and I saw Ambel's question instead of Crow. Let's go back to Crow. Economic stability of Japan. Jobs for Japan would be good for foreigners. Yeah, well, there are heaps more foreigners coming all the time, and I mean, in spite of what you might believe, the Japanese Ministry of Justice is very quietly been. It used to be impossible to get a straight off the cuff work visa for more than 1 year. Now they hand out 3-year and 5-year work visas routinely. Used to be impossible to get permanent residency if you hadn't been here for 10 years. Now they're accelerating it to 5 years, especially if you're in some professions. Across the board, they're opening new types of work visas. They're making it easier across the board for foreigners to come and work in Japan, and to come here right away and live here for much longer. They're especially opening up towards China, and they're making it very easy for Chinese to visit Japan, both as tourists and to come here and work. Apprenticeship schemes, so absolutely. The Japanese government has dramatically liberalized immigration for foreigners. They're not publicly saying that they're doing it, but they are doing it. I mean, the comparison is clear, and it's reflected in the dramatic, increase in foreigners that you see every year here. They're not just tourists in Tokyo. There's a lot of people who are here living and working, and it's getting easier and easier to do so. So absolutely. Yes, and I really wish that they would also replace the dairy farmers. So off the cuff question, Ambel asks, can Japanese people drive trains, e.g. Westerners? You know what? There is a restriction on non-Japanese being civil servants. So when the train companies used to be publicly owned, I guess they wouldn't have been able to. That said, you know what, nowadays, apart from the fact that it'd be a very challenging, old-fashioned work environment to work in, no, if they're all private companies now, I don't believe that there is a restriction on foreigners being hired to drive trains. But the other thing that's interesting is that you do have an increasing number of trains like the Yuri Kamome in Tokyo that are self-driving robotic trains, and I'm sure that we're going to see a lot more of those as well. But that said, I don't see why there would be any restriction on foreign train drivers. That said, I've never seen one that I've known. But it seems to be impossible that there couldn't be Korean and Chinese train drivers already all over the place, actually. It's just I've never seen an obvious foreigner train driver. But good question, but no, I've never seen an issue with that. Is it today? Lysander 45, 20th anniversary today of the Tiananmen Square massacre. Yeah, well, I guess this show just got restricted in some countries. A terrible thing. I remember the time. I remember it was right after all of the revolutions in Eastern Europe, and it looked like, oh, now it's going to be China too. And a lot of people, even within the central government in China, seemed to believe that China was about to, become a democratic country. And they stopped it by running their people over with tanks, very 1960s Soviet Union style. And I think it has dramatically changed China since then. I mean, you look at post 1989 China, it has become a lot more prosperous. But the way that the government there holds on to power, including through nationalism and propaganda, and frankly playing up conflicts with countries like Japan as a defensive mechanism against a revival of that sort of stuff, it's a great shame. And the thing is, no matter how much they try to erase the history of those events from their own history, while lecturing other countries about not facing up. It's funny how China lectures Japan on facing up to history. They completely edit their own history extensively, including that event. But hopefully there will be a day, not too far from now, one day when people inside China can know and debate the events of that day 28 years ago, the same as we can do from outside. But yes, indeed. Felix DVRS, I'm good. How are you, Felix DVRS? Have you been on the show before? I don't recognize it. Henley, very good to have you along live, and welcome. Even with robot trains, they would need a person just to sit there and step in if anything goes wrong. Well, it's an interesting point. They don't have that on the economy. They have no people who step in. They do have maintenance people. They have people who maintain the stations and so on. So there are people around, but there aren't people on the trains. There's no one to step in. They're self-driving. I guess if there was a problem, they'd have to run from the station or whatever. I mean, just as an example, there are trains there with no drivers, and they go great. So who knows? Street markets in Tokyo there. Apparently there's a new service setting up. If you go and check out Rocket News, there's a service. What's the name of the service? It allows travelers to drop off their suitcases at cafes. So if you can't find a locker to put your suitcases into, if you're traveling around but you want to put down your heavy backpacks and suitcases and wander around, there is, so what is the place? Ekbo Cloak. So apparently Ekbo Cloak in Kyoto, there's a system where you can go to a cafe and they'll look after all your luggage for you while you go wandering around. So that sounds like a very good idea. Japan becoming more and more tourist friendly all the time. It's pretty cool. Tofugu's Japanese language learning resources, always good to see them, and I still consider Tofugu to be one of the best Japanese language learning resources on the internet. If you're interested in learning Japanese at all, go to Tofugu first nowadays, because they've got all the internet stuff that you can use for that. IBM is eliminating remote workers despite millennial demand for flexibility, and the reason for this is, if you read the article, it sounds like they're being a bit backward-minded, but it actually, having done this myself, and I agree with their conclusions, I think remote work works for really routine work, if you like stamping documents or doing really sort of outsourced sort of routine stuff. That's fine, but if you really need to actually do anything that's innovative or creative or requires brainstorming or cooperation, you know, the collaborative and communicative restrictions. I mean, sure, everyone gives you Skype or something like that and says talk, but it's very different being on the end of chat software, especially if the people who are on the mothership are not as committed to using the chat software. You know, email, it's not a substitute for being in the same room with the whiteboard talking to people. So, yeah, given that IBM's business is currently going through some pretty dramatic upheavals, it does make sense that they are having more people needing to work in the offices. I think future it'll go back to being more remote work again, but at the moment I think it makes a lot of sense. The Japan dude, I hope you are having a wonderful evening yourself. Very good of you to wish it for everybody else. Back up your stuff, old-fashioned stuff. Apparently all of these methane craters are from frozen methane under the ocean floor. Right now the oceans are warming up and it's causing the ocean to fart methane gas, which is, 12 times more powerful greenhouse global warming gas than carbon dioxide. And right now this is the thing, it's this runaway effect. The warming triggers the release of more gases that accelerate warming. It's causing a graph like this of warming. And yeah, we're going to get all this sort of stuff. One of the theories apparently on the Bermuda Triangle is that there's a whole bunch of these methane hydrates under the ocean, which apparently they occasionally release these farts that cause very light, these gas clouds to come up, which cause planes to crash and boats to get sucked into the ocean. Kind of makes some sense, I guess. But yes, apparently all over the place now they are finding, this is in the Barents Sea, but yes, they find, I guess if it's an ocean which has fossil, but literally fossil material underneath the seafloor, it can happen. Recycled spacecraft, Spaceship 2 is done another test. The climate deniers have won. Yes, they have. Offensive YouTube videos won't earn ad money from Google. There's new really ad guidelines there on, I don't know if this counts or not, I don't really care, but you know, if you want to make money on YouTube, there's new guidelines on how to make sure you don't get cut out of that. Azuki Island, don't worry about it, you can watch the rest of it later. It's good to have you here, and interesting life. Hi from London indeed. Nibirugi, okay, I think I recall Nibirugi. And you're currently going for the Mombu Kagakusho scholarship in your country and exams, hopefully 1 year master in Kobe Daigaku. Good on you, Felix, go for it. And Kobe is a great city. If you get down there, there's of course Busan Kevin, who's still there, but I think he's moving soon. He might have already moved actually. But there's good people down there, and apparently it's a great city to live, so very good to hear that. So what else? Elon Musk quits the Gigamac. In Japan there is the Gigamac. It's got like two patties. It weighs 3 times as much. So I had it last time they had this and I felt sick afterwards. So it's coming, but it's not as good as it sounds. The birth rate's crashing. It's been kind of quiet. The Streamy Awards. This is a Serbian volleyball team. They all, apparently in anticipation of the World Cup volleyball tournament in Japan in 2018, when they qualified, they thought they'd celebrate, we're going to Japan, where they'll have slanty eyes. Seemed like a really good idea at the time to the Serbian volleyball team. 2 things I can say about this. One, Serbians are not known for their cultural sensitivity, and I know this, I have Serbians in the family, and they're not sensitive at all about cultural stuff. Believe me, I mean, compared to other things, by Serbian standards, trust me, this is nothing. And two, the Japanese internet apparently forgives them because at least a pretty good number of them are very good looking, so they're okay. That's kind of funny. I guess Japanese people, when you're in a country where everybody is sort of like that, they're like, oh, they think our eyes are funny? Well, that's strange. But, I guess when you've been bullied about it, differentiated in a multicultural society, it hits you a lot worse than when you're in a society where everyone looks like that. It's just kind of curious, And it's a bit like what I had, when Japanese were, really curious about my big nose. But I remember it was not in an offensive way. I was sensitive about it, but they're like, oh, no, it's great. We actually Japanese get plastic surgery to actually get a bridge on their noses to look more Western. So yeah. Anyway, that was kind of funny. Everyone is disappointed at the US withdrawing. EU regrets, UN regrets, Merkel regrets, France regrets, Japan regrets, France, Italy regret. Oh, that's funny and sad. So this is coming back to my point earlier about, it's like American people seem to be angry at Trump, but it's like, man, what, are you surprised that he did this? First rule of owning a baboon is do not make them president. The second one is you don't let them drive the family station wagon. I mean, he's a baboon. Everyone knew he's a baboon. Why the fuck did you guys make him president? Seriously. How can you be angry? I'm not angry at Trump. How can you be angry at Trump? What's the point in being angry at him? He's just been exactly what he announced with a loudspeaker he was going to be. And if people are being deceived, I can totally yes, Tyrone Donoho, agree with that. Serbs in the family. I've been traveling Croatia. Loved Croatia. Croatia was so good. It's one of the best vacations I've ever had. And actually, and even before it got all really messy over there. I mean, we used to have lots of Yugoslav immigrants in New Zealand and Australia, and pretty universally, Yugoslavs, former Yugoslavs are pretty awesome, and it's a wonderful part of the world. But try to avoid talking about religion or nationalism with them. That's the only thing. So that's pretty much it. We're coming up on the hour. Oh yeah, apparently there was an Asian Champions League match between Musashi Urawa and Jeju Island, and apparently when these Japanese people went and celebrated a goal like that, the Korean bench cleared, and one of the people from the bench ran in and did a flying elbow and hit a Japanese player in the head, and afterwards the Korean manager of the team said the Japanese should not have celebrated the goal. They deserved it. They deserved the bench to clear and get elbowed in the head. And I try not to get sucked up into the nationalist aggravation that happens on sport matches online. But you watch this, and I gotta say, I mean, they look like maniacs. They do. I realise that they get very passionate when they play against Japan and they want to commit violence against Japan, but seriously, they play dirty. I mean, they play dirty as hell. and the Japanese players, they look timid in response. They still kick their asses, which I'm very glad they did in this case, but they look timid in response, but I'm kind of glad about that. He's coming with Cloud, the chosen one, Kofefe. Indeed. Let's do 3 or 4 more. But here we go. How to cut your photo editing time in half. Book publishing, YouTube creators, Instagram. There's not a lot that's interesting here. Toshiba is going to get into a lawsuit, it looks like, with Western Digital. They're pulling out of a joint venture that they have with them, taking all their assets back. Job hunting season starting. I didn't know about this. Apparently there is a memorial for Kutubul. Was that Papua New Guinea? I think it was Papua New Guinea. People who died there, which, by the way, is part of Australia, which was occupied. Papua New Guinea was part of Australia during World War II, and it was occupied by Japan. I mean, Australia was occupied by Japan. They play it down, but there you go. In fact, you know what? Now I'm remembering. Actually, that's different. Kutubul was the name of a boat, which was actually in Sydney Harbour and was torpedoed, and a number of people died. Again, Australia sort of plays down the attacks on Darwin and Sydney Harbour. But Japan they really messed with Australia in World War II, and that's partly why there's still so much prejudice towards Japan in Australia. I mean, among the elderly, there certainly is. In my own family, I can attest. But yeah. So anyway, I'm going to leave it there this week. it's been pretty good. I hope you guys have enjoyed the show. It's good to see you guys every week. It's nice to hang out during this time. I hope you guys all have a very good week. I will be back here next week. If we get a good guest on, we will do another 2.5 Oyajis. It was great to have Unrested on last week. I really enjoyed that, and it was good to get good conversation with him. He's very good at the format. Hope that you are all very well, and the Japan dude, I'm just like, well, I think that's going a little bit far to say I'm just like Russell Crowe. For one thing, I don't pretend to be Australian, and two, I don't randomly beat the shit out of people. No, I must say, actually, I would have kicked ass. Nice of you to say so. The thing, Russell Crowe is a New Zealander that every New Zealander is extremely proud to say he's an Australian. And so I'm being attacked on Reddit JCJ. Okay, just Google it and I'll look that up. But anyway, don't really give a shit. I hope you guys are all okay. Have a good week, and I'll see you next week. And that's it from me. Boom. Peace. Have a good one. Stop streaming. 56 minutes, 21 seconds, and I am out. Boom.